Today I want to show you how to dethatch an entire lawn using only a thatch rake. You'd be surprised when you look at a lawn like this how much dead material is in the turf canopy and sitting right on top of the soil. Before we get started, I do want to explain the difference. We're using a thatch rake, but thatch rakes don't usually pull up the actual thatch. They're really pulling up old dead grass clippings. The surface debris is what I like to call it. When we pull up all of that surface debris, then it makes it a lot easier to fertilize our lawn and to irrigate our lawn, or at least capture as much rain as we possibly can in the soil underneath our grass. When there's too many clippings, then the grass doesn't perform as well. My cat and I want to get started today before it gets hot, so let's go. All right, now before we get started, you can buy a thatch rake like this in just about any hardware store around your town. I've owned this one for, I don't know, a little over 3 years or so. It is weathered and well used. They're all basically the same, and despite what marketing material tells you, I like to use these flat side tines to drag clippings across the ground. And I like to use these winged sides to do my actual digging into the grass. That's just a preference thing. Depending on the angle that works for you, your height, and how much you want to dig into the ground, you're going to loosen this wing nut up, swivel it to make it as comfortable as you possibly can. For the most part, this is a one-use tool. Like, I pretty much only use this for dethatching. You could use it cultivating in a garden or clearing like surface weeds off of a dirt patch, but I pretty much only use it in the lawn. A more alternative multi-use tool would be the groundskeeper rake, which can work as a thatching rake, kind of like this. It's very good, but not quite as good as this when it comes to pulling the material out, but it is an option. Now, very important to keep in mind, I don't care what time of year it is or how hot it is, you are going to get extremely tired, very sweaty, and I mean just straight up exhausted doing this, even if you've only got like a 500 square foot patch of lawn. If you got like a 5,000 square foot patch, don't expect to get this done in one day unless you're Superman. I like to do small chunks at a time and rest in between. Dethatching a lawn, or at least a section of a lawn at a time, is, I don't know, it's a job that I take on, like I never do the entire lawn in a day. It's just not possible. So I like to recommend people do this periodically throughout the year on different sections of their lawn. It makes it much more palatable and easy to get done. To start, however, I always recommend grabbing your lawnmower, putting the bagger on it, and cutting your grass a bit lower or significantly lower than you normally do. It's going to make the job a lot easier. And as a ninja tip, I don't recommend cutting all of the lawn, just a small area that you plan on hitting with the thatch rake in one go. So that's the only section that I'm going to work on at this moment in time. I know what section I've hit with the thatch rake simply because I'm only hitting the sections that I've actually cut super duper short with the lawnmower. So I'm not going to be dethatching fresh grass. It's only the dead stuff sitting on top of the dirt.
Well, yeah, that's a little bit hard than this one.
Yeah. You like it short or tall?
Short.
You like it short?
Yeah.
Kind of looks like a golf course.
Yeah.
Just a little bit messy. When you finally get around to picking up the thatch rake and actually using it, I recommend following somewhat of a grid-like pattern. I basically just do small strips, small rows, and just drag the material that I'm pulling up along until the pile is big enough, and then I just move it off to the side and continue on. By doing that, I know exactly where I've been and what areas I still need to hit with the thatch rake. It can be tempting to want to push the thatch rake deep into the ground. After all, that's what it's for, is digging in and pulling the material up. But I say this from personal experience. Most scenarios, you don't need to push that rake deep into the ground, especially if you've already cut your grass very short. The harder you push it into the ground, the more exhausting the job is going to be, and the more likely you are to abandon the project midway through your yard. Even if you're gliding over the surface, you're going to be picking up an enormous amount of material that's not blatantly obvious from a street level view. And whatever you pick up is going to help your lawn perform significantly better over the coming season. As you watch me dethatch my lawn, you'll note that I have a perennial rye and Kentucky bluegrass mixture. I've certainly scalped it down much lower than I usually cut it. If I was running a turf type tall fescue or a Kentucky 31 fescue or any of the warm season grasses like St. Augustine that tends to be cut higher, I probably wouldn't cut it so low. Grass types like fescue don't usually need to be dethatched very often anyway, but it's still worth noting. Now, because I ran this over with a lawnmower on the lowest setting, which you don't necessarily have to go lowest, just go as low as you feel comfortable going. By going all the way to the lowest setting, most people are truly scalping their lawn. But because I went that low, almost everything comes up very easily with the minimal amount of effort. Now at this point, I'm going to take this material and go use it in my garden. If you don't have a garden, then you could just throw it into a lawn bag for curbside recycling. You'll notice that I used gloves. If you're going over a large lawn, you're absolutely going to need gloves. Otherwise, you're going to give yourself blisters and cuts on your hand. And after you go over it with the thatch rake, you're going to find that a lot of living grass is actually fluffed up. It used to be laying over, but we've actually fluffed it up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to run the lawnmower back over the top of it, cut the extra grass, and suck up the remnants of this stuff that is sitting on the top.
I have it even bigger. I have it and even bigger. Let's compare.
All in all, that took me about 15 minutes to do 60 square feet. That includes mowing the area low first, then manually dethatching, and then cleaning up the area. All of the surface debris that's been removed is already in my garden. Now I just have the whole rest of the lawn to go through. If you think about that, 15 minutes for 60 square feet, that'd be about 240 square feet an hour. Let's round it up and say it's 250 square feet an hour. So that means you need about 4 hours to go through 1,000 square feet. Honestly, it's nowhere near as exhausting doing this when you're doing it first thing in the morning on grass that is very short. The longer your grass is, the harder the process is going to be, and the more you do this in the middle of the day, the more exhausting it's going to be. With grass like this, I can now see the soil in between all of the grass blades, and that means we're getting a lot better airflow in there, and we're potentially getting better airflow into the soil itself. All the microorganisms in the soil need to breathe as well. Because I really aggressively scalped this grass and then ripped at it with the thatch rake, I'm going to go ahead and fertilize it and then water it deeply to help the grass recover as fast as possible. You're not typically going to want to do this to a cool season lawn going into the high heat and stresses of summer, but it is a pretty good time to do it in the mid-spring, the early fall, or the very end of summer. And that's what I'm doing right here. I'm doing this to my lawn at the end of summer to prepare for a better fall season. If using a thatch rake seems like it's too much effort or takes too much time, then there are faster ways to do it. Using an electric dethatcher can shave an enormous amount of time off of the job. You have to buy an electric tool or a battery operated tool or go rent one from your local tool rental agency. So there's some added expense, but you could get through the whole job a lot faster without breaking the same sweat that you do using this long-handed tool. I've got a video about using electric dethatchers to do the same job right up here. I suggest that you take a look at it if the manual option doesn't seem right for you.